That was not a common Bengals W, but this is common Bengals W. What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp for common Bengals W, and I love doing preseason games, man. I love talking about the preseason because there's such little pressure. You can overreact, you can underreact, you can take some positives away. And the Bengals lost to the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles 34-27. And the Bengals really made it a game towards the end of it. But I mean, listen, this wasn't the Super Bowl champion Super Bowl champion Eagles that the Bengals were facing tonight. But there were a lot of takeaways from what we saw and what we did not see tonight, including the first quarter and Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Let's jump right into it. So Joe Burrow, I think he had like 6 snaps in the preseason in his life. And the Bengals have been the most woefully underprepared team, or I would say unprepared, not even underprepared, the most unprepared team in the league for like years and years and years. And that leads to 0-2 starts, 1-3 starts, and it puts the Bengals in a position where they are not mathematically eliminated at the very last snap of the year, but a situation where they need help, or a situation where a Tanner Hudson goal line fumble or a pass interference call against the Chiefs keeps them out of the playoffs very early on in the season. So they need to be prepared, and as a result, this is the first time ever in the Joe Burrow era that they have come in with no distractions on offense, completely healthy, relatively speaking. You know, first year was the COVID year. That sucks. The second year was Joe Burrow's ACL. He had a wrist one year, appendicitis one year. He hurt his calf one year, which, looking back, we are so lucky didn't become an Achilles after the calf injuries that we've seen subsequently, like especially in the NBA. But then there were, the Higgins and Chase contract situations as well. And what we saw in the first quarter, and albeit against backups, was Joe Burrow looking like the best quarterback in the league, and Jamar Chase looking like the best wide receiver in the league. 77 yards in about 9.5 minutes for Jamar Chase, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns in about the first 9.5-ish minutes. I think maybe he had another series towards the end for Joe Burrow. There's lots to get into. So get in your chats if you're here. You don't got to send super chats or anything, by God. But we got Israel saying, well, that was interesting. It was interesting. It's always interesting, but I try to not overreact too much. Tim is saying that Super Bowls are won and lost in these preseason games. Israel, you can say that again. And he says, I guess it's safe to say it's going to be one of those seasons where they look great, but lose games by more than or less than one possession. Well, a lot of that is going to be determined as to how the defense looks. And the defense looked bad tonight. But the defense that looked bad tonight was without B.J. Hill, was without Trey Hendrickson, was without Cam Taylor-Britt and Dax Hill. And I don't know what Cam Taylor-Britt we're getting. We get in 2023 or 2024 Cam Taylor-Britt. Because thus far, I have seen nothing to change my opinion that I had leading into last season that the Bengals need a veteran corner. Now, you'll hear a whole lot of people say, yeah, but the pass rush. They got Trey Hendrickson last year. They got some pass rush there. But it doesn't matter when your DBs get balls plucked off their helmet. And that's what happens very often. New defensive coordinator, seemed like a lot of the same things were happening. A lot of slicing and dicing over the middle. And, when your wide receivers are as good as ours, I guess you kind of got to expect other ones to be at least half decent as well. But our secondary is bad. If there's one thing that the last 2 or 3 years has really highlighted, it's if you have an elite player, pay them and pay them early. And they should have done that with Jesse Bates. They should not have let Jesse Bates walk out that door. And I will scream that over and over and over again. Joe Burrow went 9 for 10. I think he missed T one time, I believe it was. Yeah. I don't think T had a catch, but oh well. Let's see what else is in the chat. Our dude Nick Hester's here. Says aloha. Burrow in midseason form. Trey on line one. Yeah, they need to be signing Trey by the time they land back in Cincinnati. 15 plays for 146 for Joe Burrow. Other teams are going to run through our defense like a hot knife through butter. And that's the thing. Like, I want to see how adding BJ Hill, they better sign Trey Hendrickson. This is a clear indication. And I want to see what Dax and Cam Taylor-Britt are. I probably wouldn't have let Mike Hilton go either, but again, this is a situation that we can't undo. We can't undo the fact that the Bengals front office is really bad and cost themselves 15, 25, 30 million. DJ Ivy did have a very up and down game, but Asante Samuel would be a great fit for the Bengals room. But let's talk about some things that I liked and didn't like. First off, don't like Dylan Fairchild violently headbutting his teammates in the minutes leading up to the game. If you are a Bengals coach, you are going to Dylan Fairchild and you're saying, cut that shit out. Cut that bullshit out. Find another thing to get you pumped up besides possibly concussing or injuring yourself or one of our players. The returns. Jermaine Burton took the first return. It was mediocre, but he had a really great punt return later on in the evening. Gary Brightwell had some really good returns, including one that came back quite a bit, but that looked very promising. I think that immediately is an upgrade over the last number of seasons based on just the talent level of Brightwell and Burton if they are out there returning the ball. I really like that. So there was a play on the first drive that Burrow kind of threw 3 touchdowns because he had one called back. And I actually didn't mind that it ended up being a hold because that put him at like 1st and 20, right? Is that a 15-yard penalty or something? Shouldn't be that much. Hold shouldn't be that bad. But Joe Burrow got to work from that as well. Later on, we saw just him doing the Jamar Chase thing. We ain't got to talk too much about that. We know what they're going to do. Special teams in totality looked pretty good, as Tim says. Like, I really, really enjoyed, Connor mentioned the 10-yard penalty. Evan McPherson looked good again. Ryan Rico, you want to talk about a great signing. Ryan Rico continues to be a great signing. He is a phenomenal punter. They signed him off the street, and he immediately became what I believe is the best punter in the league, which the very fortunate part about him being the best punter in the league is he doesn't have to punt a lot with this offense. That's fortunate. Chase Brown ran the ball exceptionally well while he was in. 4.6 yards a carry. Taj Brooks did not. That's something that we're going to want to see improve for sure. Like Taj Brooks is, again, it's tough to say what his role will be on this team, but Chase Brown looked very, very good. The first defensive series was a miserable defensive series. However, they had actually a very good goal line stand that ended in a tush-push touchdown. But, like, listen, most teams aren't going to go for that tush-push touchdown, but the Eagles are. So I really liked how things went there. Was happy with that goal line stand. Was not happy with the defense that was being played along that way. Jake Browning sucked ass. He was so bad. 6 of 14, 62 yards. A pick, probably should have been 3 picks, to be honest with you. Jake Browning was garbage. Now, he doesn't play well in the preseason generally ever. But if he can ever be what he was in 2023 again, well, then we're pretty good. But you gotta bring in some competition. And Logan Woodside was not going to be that competition. So the Bengals brought in Desmond Ridder as the 3rd string quarterback, somebody with a little bit of starting experience. I think more starting experience than Jake Browning. And he also did not play good. He was 7 of 16, but he's at least brand new to the team. He threw a touchdown, didn't get picked off, almost did, though. Didn't get sacked. Jake Browning did. And also, Joe Burrow didn't get touched tonight. That was promising. Although I'm not sure how that guard play will end up. It really feels like the Bengals front office has just long believed year after year they can just plug and play guards. Who cares? Now, they did spend some money on Alex Kappa, and that didn't work out. But the backup quarterback situation for the Bengals didn't look good tonight. But let me tell you what did look good tonight. The Bengals, like, third or fourth on the depth chart tight end situation. So there's no Noah Fant tonight. There's no Mike Gesicki tonight. But Tanner Hudson played, and he played like the whole game. He played a lot tonight. And, outside of, again, the goal line fumble is almost, it was very close to unforgivable for me last year. Him fumbling that away is the difference in the Bengals making the playoffs or not. And that sucks. But Tanner Hudson, for the amount of money that they pay him, they have gotten back immensely. And tonight, 6 receptions, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns on 8 targets. I mean, you could do a whole lot worse than him as I think he's the third receiving option. Probably, if they need somebody to block and stuff, you're going to have Drew Sample in there. Now, it wouldn't surprise me to not see, it wouldn't surprise me to see the tight end room look completely different after this year, depending on Gesicki's production, depending on what Noah Fant is, and the amount that they're paying Drew Sample and all that. Tanner McLaughlin exists. We saw him get a target. It wasn't good. We saw him get a target. Cool. There was a Jamal Mays reception that was also very good. Charlie Jones also exists, if you believe that. Bengals 4th round pick a couple years ago. Looked like he might be a return man at one point, but didn't end up being the case. But yeah, good to see him doing some stuff. Lucas Patrick did not look good tonight. So that's going to be a thing to monitor. Jalen Rivers got called for a hold. That's a good way to piss off Joe Burrow, as we saw in quarterback. Just really bad. I'm worried about the guard play. Now, what they had with Joe Burrow held up very well, but again, those are against backups. They should be. They should be. Robert Dillon says, I think it's time to call Will Hernandez or Brandon Sheriff. I think Will Hernandez got signed today. I'm pretty sure. But Brandon Sheriff should get signed. The Bengals should have brought him in quite a while back. I feel like Hernandez got signed by the Cardinals. I don't know. But I thought he got signed today. I'll tell you a thing I was shocked at the end of the game. The announcers surprised that the Eagles weren't kneeling it out. I'm like, it's preseason. In the preseason, why, if you were a coach, why are you not trying to get every snap you can possibly get competitively? Get as many looks as you can. They're like, oh, you live to fight another day. Live to fight another day. It's the preseason. The live to fight another day is the next snap that you get. Everything is a film study for preseason. I don't know why they were acting like, oh, they'll probably just kneel it out. No. I was surprised that the Bengals didn't take a timeout at the end of the game to at least force a punt return. They could have tied it up there. And then you just end the game, right? Get another look at your return man. Why not? Oh, that Joe Giles Harris pick 6 that got pulled back, as Robert Dillon says. Giles Harris making a clutch tip drill interception, was brought in as a special teams linebacker, might actually be in contention for a linebacker spot. Another guy who was integral to that play was Injong Meta, who earned his job last year as an undrafted rookie and earned his spot. And then I think Injong Meta was a phenomenal example of not giving up on a play in that game against the Cowboys, where I believe the punt got a little bit screwed up and then he went back and got it. But that one bounced off him into the hands of Giles Harris. Giles Harris ran it back. Now, they said he was down, but I mean, the mere fact that he even kept it alive, like that's the stuff you want to see in your preseason as well. Cause like, who gives a damn if I was actually happy it got called back. Like, we still saw the play unfold. You can still tape study off that. If you're defensive offensive coordinator, you can still learn from that, but then your offense gets an opportunity to go out there and do some stuff. Unfortunately, it was Jake Browning and Desmond Ridder, so they weren't doing much of anything. But that was really good to see. Evan McPherson, that was really good to see as well. Injong Meta, 5 tackles. Sounds about right for him in the preseason, right? Isaiah Williams had, I think his average was 26.5 on his kick returns. Burton was 21, Brightwell with 31. And then Burton had that 32-yard punt return. Isaiah Williams even had 16 yards as well. So again, at least as far as returns, like immediately right out of the gate, it's looking like that's an improvement. Evan McPherson simply making 3 extra points and 2 field goals feels like an immediate improvement over last year. The questions are, the already terrible guard play, is that going to be an improvement? The offense, other than that, we've got, I don't think we got any concerns about, right? You got Chase Brown back. You got P. Ryan in the spot that Zach Moss was supposed to be in. So probably an increase there. Offense seems way better. If it, at minimum. Jermaine Burton not being a head case is a huge benefit. On defense, though, and it's funny because they wasted so much money on free agency last year between Sheldon Rankins and Trent Brown, and then they just wasted that money by taking too long to sign people. Why are the 3 and 4s outperforming the 1s and 2s? Well, I mean, a lot of it depends on what team you're facing too. Like, the deeper into a NFL preseason game that we get, the lesser the quality. I was shocked to see McKinley Jackson out there that late, but I mean, he had 3 tackles for loss. So I want to see him playing more earlier on in the game. The Bengals have spent a lot of draft capital on D-line and offensive line over the last couple of years. And I think that's something that you've got to get out of your new defensive coordinator, is just using some of these young players. And I mean, they liked what they saw with Joseph Osai last year, obviously, right? And we're able to bring him back to the point to where he's going to be like the fringe guy. Like, there will be Trey if they get him signed, and then there will be Osai or Shamar, because I don't think Miles Murphy is anywhere near that right now. Miles Murphy, yeah. Now, Shamar Stewart, there were some positives and negatives there. Like, you definitely saw the athleticism and the disruption that people talked about, yeah? Like, you saw that. And I think that's what the Bengals need. More than a guy that can necessarily sack somebody, is somebody that can disrupt. But it doesn't matter when any receiver can pluck it off of your DBs. Robert Dillon says, Josh Newton looked okay. I know he got snagged over on one play, but he was in position on the wide receiver and man-to-man and still almost picked it. He's playing like a guy who's not undersized. Yeah, and that's what you got to do. I do not have an incredible amount of confidence in our secondary, neither with Dax Hill, who's coming off of a rough injury, and Cam Taylor-Britt, who got exposed a lot last year. But, I mean, they spent a lot of draft capital and a lot of time. Tyson Anderson, Jordan Battle, Josh Newton, DJ Ivey. They clearly want to make these guys work. I just think that it would be very, very beneficial for them to. Last year, I thought Stephon Gilmore would have been really great for the Bengals to have. And I could have pulled my hair out every time somebody said, oh, no, it's you need pass rush. You need pass rush. And I'm like, yeah, you do. But it is much more abundant in availability, veteran corners and veteran safeties. Like, they're out there all the time. There's always like some really solid to good veteran corners that are out there. Yeah. Logan Wilson didn't play much tonight. He didn't look great either. He missed a lot of time due to injury. There are so many things where it's like, okay, well, if this would have happened, like if Logan Wilson wouldn't have got hurt, maybe the Bengals make the playoffs. Like, that's how close the Bengals were. And not having Logan Wilson out there definitely will affect you. Oh, let's see when the Bengals' next preseason game is. 8/18 at 8 p.m. Well, I've got the Monday Night Raw post show that night, so we'll not be able to go live then, but I probably will the next day, talking Cincinnati Bengals. DJ Turner is the one I'm most concerned about. Yep, I'm worried about him too. Honestly, to be real, I am worried about literally all of their secondary. Every single guy on there has given you reason to be concerned, from, Dejon Anthony having an ill-advised pass interference that, could have kept us out of the playoffs, to Dax Hill with his torn ACL, to Cam Taylor-Britt going from looking like one of the most impressive interceptions you'll ever see to being exposed, to Geno Stone just barely existing the first 10 weeks of the season until the Cowboys game. Then he turned it on. Got a lot of concerns there. I'm very interested to see how the young guys work in here, because that's something that the Bengals have to do better at. They got to use their young players more. Guys, it was fun. Thank you for joining me. I was so excited to do this preseason show. I'll be back here in a couple weeks, unless Trey Hendrickson gets signed, which they should be doing by the time they touch down, buddy. That's what they should be doing. This has been Common Bengals W. We're out.